Chapter 854. Leah pinched the bridge of his nose and placed one hand on Elvis's shoulder, saying, "It doesn't look like she likes it no matter how I look at it. Let's change out of these clothes first or else she will really suffocate from laughing." Elvis nodded and placed Gu Mingming, who was laughing so hard that it was vibrating, beside the bed. Then he and Leah went to the side to take off the bikini and change back into their own beast skin dress. When they returned, Gu Mingming was still laughing. Forgive her. She really could not control her prehistoric energy anymore. For the entire afternoon, the sky above St. Nazaire was filled with strange and explosive laughter. Elvis and Leah held their foreheads helplessly, but they could not do anything about Gu Mingming's way of laughing. They could not go up to comfort her because Gu Mingming would laugh even harder every time she saw their faces. Until she laughed until she lost all her energy, Gu Mingming leaned against the bed weakly and twitched, barely stopping her laughter. Elvis's heart ached for her, laughing so hard that she could not stop. He wanted to make her happier, but he was especially uncertain now. Did he succeed? He hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and stroked her back gently, saying, "I saw that you have been feeling uneasy these few days, so I wanted to make you happy. I remember you said previously that you admired that swimsuit Prince Charming, saying that you would forget all your troubles when you see him, and admire the way he focuses and works hard on his target." Kissing Gu Mingming's brows, Elvis's blue eyes were filled with deep affection. With a self-deprecating smile, he chuckled, "Can't I do it if it's not him? Xiaoming, I suddenly feel jealous." To be honest, Gu Mingming's heart was extremely sensitive after being pinched by Elvis like this. She did not believe that Elvis did not know how comical, funny, and embarrassing he looked in that swimsuit. But in order to please her, he swallowed all the shame and wore the strange clothes. Did she trample on his feelings when she laughed like that just now? Was he hurt? Gu Mingming hugged Elvis back gently and rubbed her little face against his chest. She wanted to explain, but she heard Elvis's low and hoarse voice coming from above her head. "There's a male in your heart that I have never seen before and can't imagine, even though I know that both of you are separated by a world and he can't snatch you away from me." But I still panicked. "Xiaoming, tell me, what can I do to surpass him and become the person you admire the most in your heart?" Gu Mingming looked up and kissed Elvis's chin. She smiled gently and said, "I have not admired him for a long time. From the moment you stretched out your hand towards me in the lake, you became my Prince Charming. But you were smiling like that just now." Elvis's tone was slightly bitter, with a tinge of helplessness. Gu Mingming laughed and said, "Sorry, I laughed too much." Elvis frowned, but he could not bear to reprimand her. He only said, "Compared to him in a swimsuit, Leah and I are still too far apart, isn't it?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "I laughed because you guys were wearing female swimsuits, not because you guys are worse than him." Elvis raised his brows and his eyes shone. He asked, "So, the problem is with the clothes and not me?" Chapter 855. Elvis's gaze deepened and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. "So, should I use another method to please you? For example, using your favorite body?" Gu Mingming felt a warmth in her nose and she covered her nose that was about to spurt blood. She lost her balance, and when she turned around, Elvis was already half lying on his back, leaning against the wall at a 45-degree angle. Gu Mingming's waist was restrained by him and she was sprawled on his chest like a cat. Looking up, she met his lazy and wanton chuckle. His faint blue eyes were filled with overwhelming passion and Gu Mingming's mind was in a mess. Before she could think, Elvis kissed her deeply on the lips. His nimble tongue engulfed every bit of sweetness in her mouth. It was so domineering and lingering that she could not resist. On certain matters, Gu Mingming could not withstand his teasing. Moreover, Elvis seemed to be getting more mature and steady day by day. His entire body exuded the unique hormones of a male. He was different from Leah. He never acted coquettishly in front of her but gave her the broadest and most solid chest. It was undeniable that no matter how strong Gu Mingming was now, the most reliable person in her heart was Elvis. Even if he was not as strong as Snake, even if he was not as good at pleasing her as Leah, he was still the most solid support in her heart. As long as he was around, she would be at ease. So, if it was Elvis, no matter when, she would always be at ease, giving herself to him. A round of pleasure to her heart's content. When Gu Mingming could not even beg for mercy and fainted, Elvis reluctantly let her off. When Gu Mingming woke up again, it was already 2 days later. Using Snake's Beast King powers to recover after pleasure, Gu Mingming really felt that no one else would do that. But if not for her Beast King level powers, she would have become a paralyzed patient by Elvis. Gritting her teeth, Gu Mingming looked at Elvis angrily and said, "You've really learned bad things." But Elvis enjoyed Gu Mingming's wild gaze that was like an angry cat. He lightly licked his lips and said, "All thanks to Xiaomeng for your good guidance. If it wasn't for your request, I really wouldn't have thought that there was such a thing as bullying. Next time let's change it to love, okay? If it's too rough, your body won't be able to take it and you'll faint halfway. It's quite distressing. Get lost." Gu Mingming's face was extremely red as she casually grabbed a piece of beast skin and threw it at Elvis. Elvis caught the beast skin and covered Gu Mingming with a hood. He whispered into her ear, "Now? You've recovered? Where do you want to roll?" Gu Mingming withered in an instant. Damn, although it did not hurt anymore, she did not have any energy left in her body. Sigh, the legend of the hungry wolf was really not a joke. Unable to provoke him, Gu Mingming could only lower her head and plead softly, "Hubby, I'm still tired. Don't torture me, let me rest." Elvis's lips curled into a playful smile as he scooped Gu Mingming into his arms. He kissed her brows and said, "Yeah, I always listened to Xiaomeng." Gu Mingming blushed and did not say a word. Elvis placed his chin lightly on the top of Gu Mingming's head, his gaze deep. If there was a way to let her live a relaxed and happy life without any worries, how good would that be? Heaving a sigh of relief, Elvis finally opened his mouth and said, "Let's set off to Sauder after lunch." Aside from the topic, a joyous, hearty. How can I express the surging emotions in my heart? Hurry, there's no more time, hurry up and board the train. Look at the car plate. 4927792773. After boarding the train, look for the administrator to check the tickets. Babies with more than 800 fans can enter the VIP cabin to enjoy the special treatment of overflowing meat fragrance. Note: this train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. This train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. Chapter 856. Yeah. Gu Mingming didn't raise any questions and just responded with a single word. If nothing had happened at Sauder, Ian should have brought Sandy, her family and the 3 little ones back. In that case, Elvis would tell her directly and she wouldn't have to go to Sauder anymore. If the situation at Sauder was dire and something bad happened to Sandy and the 3 little ones, then she wouldn't have to go to Sauder anymore. So, Ian should have returned and the news he brought back was neither good nor bad. Sandy and the 3 little ones were safe but probably not free. Cole's motive was to force her to go to Sauder, so he would naturally know when to stop. But she really didn't understand why Cole wanted her to go to Sauder. Just to catch up? Their relationship wasn't that good yet. During lunch, Oriton, whom she hadn't seen for a long time, appeared punctually with his hunted prey. Gu Mingming looked at his resentful eyes and couldn't help but want to put 2 more pieces of meat in his bowl to compensate for his psychological trauma. Her family had gone to the deep sea and were held up for a few days at the stray beast camp on their way back. After returning to St. Nazaire, they were held up for another 2 days as they accompanied their lonely father to watch television. After bidding farewell to Wabi, they slept for another 2 days with Elvis. Adding up all the time, Oriton looked like a raging tiger that had been trapped in a cage for a long time. The rage of a trapped beast and his obsession for food made him exude a strange and pitiful aura. Strangely, Gu Mingming felt as if she had left her dog alone at home for half a month on a family vacation. It was a feeling of guilt for abandoning a small animal. Well, this small animal looked rather fierce and had facial paralysis. After the meal, Gu Mingming looked at Oriton, who was carrying a pot to wash. She stretched out her hand and said, "That." Oriton stood still and turned to look at Gu Mingming. "I'm going to." "Ah." Gu Mingming was taken aback. Oriton was extremely determined. "Aren't we going to Sauder?" "I'm going to." Gu Mingming pursed her lips and said awkwardly, "If you leave too, St. Nazaire's fighting power will be too weak. If we encounter any danger, there won't even be someone to hold the fort." Oriton placed the pot down and turned back to face Gu Mingming. He knelt down on one knee and looked straight into Gu Mingming's eyes. He said in an extremely serious tone, "I am the guardian of the messenger. It is my duty to ensure your safety at all times. Also, I don't want to eat raw meat anymore. It's hard to swallow." The second half of the sentence was the main point. Elvis wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her into his embrace. He bit her tiny earlobe and said in a low voice, "Bring him along, I see that Kanwa looks up to him a lot. With him around, those little ones will be much more obedient." Gu Mingming's eyes lit up. Gu Mingming had a headache thinking about the interactions between Elvis and Kanwa. Then he looked at Oriton, who looked like he did not want to be separated from the delicacies and that Li's cooking was the love of his life. He nodded helplessly and said, "All right then, we can only let Ian stay behind to look after the house." After the group had settled everything, Gu Mingming looked at the cave and could not help but feel emotional. This was her first home after coming to the beast world. But why did it seem like the time she could stay at home was getting lesser and lesser? Along the way, Gu Mingming could not help but smile when she saw her tribesmen preparing food for the winter. At least this winter, there would no longer be any females who would eat their partners due to a lack of food. This was a good thing. Aside from the topic, there's new news about the explosive updates. The advertisement has already been approved. The editor wants me to save the chapters now and push it after I save up to 200,000. Well, there are only 140,000 chapters saved now. Susu will try her best. But babies, it's really difficult to save chapters while maintaining a daily rate of 9,000 chapters. Please give me a little more time and loving encouragement, alright? Chapter 857. When they arrived at Sauter, the scene was very different from what Gu Mingming had expected. She did not see any stray beasts, nor did she see any desolate or violent scenes. On the contrary, everything was orderly and thriving. Oakley and Barit, along with Sandy and the three little ones, stood at the city gates to welcome them. Compared to their warm and natural manner, Gu Mingming's worried and anxious manner of rushing all the way here seemed a little strange and baffling. Mummy, Jianghu was the first to pounce into Gu Mingming's arms. The other two brothers were a step later and also pounced into Gu Mingming's arms. Having not seen her sons for a long time, Gu Mingming naturally missed them. She hugged her three sons and kissed them one by one. She looked them up and down carefully to make sure that they were all healthy and safe. Only then did she relax. "You must have had a tough journey, right? Let's enter the city first." Sandy held Gu Mingming's little hand and led the children into the city. As they walked, she said, "That person in your family has prepared a surprise for you." Gu Mingming was confused. "That person in our family?" She turned back to look at Elvis and Leah. The two of them shook their heads silently. Their eyes were filled with a trace of melancholy as they instinctively rubbed the little wolf cubs' heads. Gu Mingming instantly understood that they were referring to Cole. Frowning, Gu Mingming did not reply. Why was Cole in their family? This was too strange. Sandy was not someone who would joke about such things. She was so afraid of Leah and Elvis that she would definitely not dare to touch this topic in front of them. Moreover, she knew how much Gu Mingming hated Cole because of Xianxian. She would never joke about such things. But, looking at her, it was too natural, as if she was speaking the truth. She swallowed the questions that were at the tip of her tongue. Perhaps this was not a good time. And something must have happened to Sandy. It would be a waste of time to ask now. Sandy sent Gu Mingming to the gates of the stone castle. Then she patted Gu Mingming's shoulder and said, "Here, I will send you here. Remember to tell me tomorrow what kind of surprise he has prepared for you? I'm very curious." Gu Mingming smiled faintly and said, "All right." Sandy lowered her head and looked at the three little ones. "Mommy definitely won't have time to take care of you tonight. Go home with mother-in-law." The three little ones pouted, but still nodded and followed Sandy obediently. Oakley bowed to Gu Mingming and said, "There are many things to do in the city, I will take my leave first." This subordinate, the Oakley who would tell her that he liked her with a blushing face, and who would force himself to accompany her to pick honey even though he was scared to death, would not be able to go back, right? Ever since her identity as the messenger of the beast deity was exposed, he had been very distant from her. After inheriting Snake's powers, she seemed to have completely lost this friend. "It's been hard on you, go ahead." Gu Mingming had no choice but to go along with everyone's changes. If she wasn't herself anymore, then what right did she have to ask everyone to treat her the way she used to be? After all, there would still be burdens. After Oakley left, Barit looked at Gu Mingming and remained silent for a long time before saying slowly, "Be careful, don't be rash." Chapter 858. Elvis and Leah each took one side and pushed open the main doors of the stone castle. The so-called surprise was just Cole standing at the door, smiling at them with his head tilted to one side. Gu Mingming frowned and secretly searched for Xianxian, but there was no sign of him. After waiting for a long while, Cole suddenly laughed. "I thought you would throw a tantrum at me the moment you see me. Looks like my beloved master is not angry at me, right?" Gu Mingming had originally wanted to ignore Cole, but now that he was the only one who knew where Xianxian was, she did not want to argue with him. She directly asked, "Where is Xianxian?" Cole lowered his head and chuckled, looking very pleased. "Little Xian is a sensible child. He knows that we have not seen each other for a long time, so he purposely avoided me to give us some intimate space. Gu Mingming walked around Cole and directly sat on the stone chair placed in the hall facing the door. The stone chair was covered with a complete white tiger skin, giving it a little of the feeling of the loyalty gathering hall. Gu Mingming had one foot on the edge of the chair, her other hand casually resting on her knee. Her other foot was on the ground and her elbow was propped against the armrest of the stone chair. She supported her temple with the back of her hand, giving off the domineering aura of a female bandit. Elvis and Leah had been standing behind her the whole time. They did not speak and just guarded her. Gu Mingming said, "Let's skip the pleasantries. We are not that close. Tell me directly, what is your motive for luring me here?" Cole smiled bitterly. He looked rather wronged and helpless as he said, "I saw that you were getting along well with Sandy and the rest just now. I thought that you had already adjusted your emotions on the way here and were no longer angry at me." Gu Mingming laughed coldly. "I know how to adjust my emotions and adapt to the situation. But this does not stop me from holding a grudge." Cole spread his hands, looking as if he could not do anything to Gu Mingming. He said in a doting tone, "Can't you think of me in a positive light? Or maybe, I just want you to have a more comfortable winter." Gu Mingming clicked her tongue impatiently. She then retracted her gaze from Cole's face. "The one who makes me the most uncomfortable here is you. So, keep that disgusting face of yours. I am afraid I will not be able to control myself and slap you to death." Cole did not get angry and just maintained his usual elegant smile. Back then, Gu Mingming only felt that he was polite and gentlemanly, but now she felt that he was disgustingly hypocritical. Cole did not avoid Gu Mingming's disgusted gaze at all. He smiled vaguely and said, "You said you hate me but you still followed in my footsteps, didn't you?" Gu Mingming didn't answer Cole's question and just asked, "Where's Xian? I want to see Xian." Cole took a step forward and said, "I told you little Xian hid on purpose to give us some intimate space. So, as long as you don't let down little Xian's good intentions, little Xian will naturally come out after we spend a warm and sweet day together. After all, he misses you very much too." Gu Mingming pinched her fingers and said, "So, are you threatening me now? You want me to give myself to you for my son?" Cole shook his head. "My dear master, I am your most loyal servant. Why would I force you to do something you don't like? Of course, if you need it, Cole is very willing to pledge my loyalty to you. This body, please feel free to play with it." Chapter 859. Elvis smiled devilishly and charged towards Cole without a second word. "Beat him up." Other than "I love you," this was Elvis's favorite sentence to hear Gu Mingming say. Especially when the target was Cole, that was simply, his sharp claws and fangs were already unbearably hungry. However, facing Elvis's lethal attack, not only did Cole not retaliate, he did not even have any intention of dodging. He just had a sly smile on his face as if he was playing into my hands. Indeed, the feeling was not right. Elvis did not have the time to see what had happened and only felt that his fist had hit something, but it was definitely not Cole. A black shadow flew out from Elvis's attack and landed in a corner with a thud. Looking over, it was Xian. That tiny body kept twitching and blood spurted out of his mouth. He was on the verge of death, but he raised his head and stared at Elvis warily. It was as if Elvis dared to attack Cole again, he would pounce on Elvis without a care for his own life. Gu Mingming panicked the moment she saw Xian. Elvis had used all his strength in his attack on Cole. If it had been a direct hit, Cole's head would have been severed from his neck. The tiny Xian had not evolved yet. How could he withstand the 5th level Elvis's punch? "Leah, hurry." Gu Mingming rushed towards Xian without a second word. She wanted to hug him but did not dare to touch him. I wonder if his bones are broken? Were his internal organs all right? She had seen first aid attempts on television. It was not wise to move a severely injured patient as it could cause a second injury. Gu Mingming knelt beside Xian. Her heart ached so much that tears streamed down her face. She could not wipe them clean no matter how hard she tried. Her sons were her flesh and blood. Especially Xian, who had suffered more than the other 3. Her guilt towards Xian had already reached its peak and suffocated her. Now it was like a flash flood that could not be stopped. Leah knew how much Gu Mingming cared for Xian and naturally did not dare to be negligent. But the moment he approached, Xian bared his teeth and took a defensive stance. He even pulled at his own wounds and struggled to stand up. "You think I care?" Elvis's cold and sinister voice came from above her head. Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment. She understood that Xian must have said something while whimpering. Her heart ached for her son's injuries and she was anxious to know what he had said, so she could not help but vent her anger on Elvis. "Why are you so fierce? My son is injured, why are you yelling at him?" Elvis gritted his teeth and clenched his fists tightly, refusing to speak. "What did he say? Tell me, what does he want? Did he say that he was in pain? Did he say that he was in pain?" Gu Mingming was on the verge of breaking down. She really wanted to give herself 2 tight slaps. She should not have allowed Elvis to attack Cole. She clearly knew that Qixin was in Cole's hands, so what if he teased her a little? Why couldn't she just endure it? Elvis pulled Gu Mingming into his arms, allowing her to pounce and behave atrociously in his arms. He glared at Qixin and let out a few low whimpers, replying to Qixuan's words using the way wolves communicate. Chapter 860. Cole took 2 steps forward and squatted down, shielding half of his chest behind Gu Mingming. He placed one broken hand on Gu Mingming's shoulder and the other on the hand Gu Mingming was using to stroke Qixuan's head. He smiled at Qixin. "Little Xian, be good. Don't be afraid. Your mother and I will stay by your side. She won't leave and neither will I. However, you have to get well soon. Don't let your mother worry because if she does, our hearts will ache, won't it?" Qixin nodded obediently. He looked at Gu Mingming expectantly as if waiting for her reply. This gaze forced Gu Mingming to resist the urge to fling Cole away. Discomfort spread from the places he touched and nausea spread throughout her entire body. But Gu Mingming didn't want Qixin to be upset. She clenched her teeth and forced a smile. She comforted Qixin. "Be good. Mother will accompany you." "Oh will." Qixin called out weakly again. Gu Mingming didn't understand what he was saying. She turned to look at Elvis, only to see that his face was so black that ink could drip from it. He gritted his teeth and glared at Qixin. "Don't push your luck." Gu Mingming frowned and looked at Leah. Lee's expression didn't look too good but he didn't say a word. Left with no choice, Gu Mingming looked at Cole. Cole chuckled. "Children are just a little willful. Moreover, you were the one who beat him up. Shouldn't you satisfy his willfulness and make up for your mistake?" "I forgot." Mighty Elvis has always believed in the principle of, the strong get all the benefits. He won't give in even to a cub that Agu cares so much about. With that, Cole turned to look at Qixin with a stern expression. "Little Xian, don't be rude to Mighty Elvis. He is your mother's first partner. If you act like this, your mother will be put in a difficult position." Qixin sniffled pitifully and whimpered. Gu Mingming didn't expect Elvis and Leah to translate for her. She just looked at Cole. "What is my son saying?" Cole smiled, his gaze light as he said, "Little Xian is afraid of Sir Elvis and Sir Leah, so he hopes that the 2 of them can leave." Although it was just a child spouting nonsense, Lord Elvis's punch almost took Xianer's life. Agu should empathize with Xianer's fear. After all, he was still a child. Just take it as a child's words. Gu Mingming felt extremely uncomfortable. Damn it, Cole's words made it seem as if he was Qixuan's biological father and Elvis was an outsider. "I don't need you to apologize for my son." Gu Mingming's displeasure was written all over her face. Cole wasn't annoyed. He just lowered his head and said, "I have crossed the line. But if you must punish someone, please punish me. Qixin, can't take any more torture now." Gu Mingming wanted to hit someone. Cole's words meant that Elvis's biological father and her biological mother had tortured Qixin? But Qixuan's injuries were indeed caused by Elvis. Chapter 861. In the face of a willful child, parents could only compromise. Because they dared to hurt themselves to coerce you, and you were never as heartless as you claimed to be. You could really watch them die and then calmly collect their corpses. Gu Mingming immediately relented the moment Qixin struggled. Yes, that's right. Doting mothers often spoil their children, but so what? The dying man in front of her was her son, her biological son. Turning around, Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with tears. She looked at Elvis and Leah and said, "You 2 can leave first and return to the stone house we used to stay in temporarily." Elvis did not move, he just frowned and looked at her. "I'm begging you." Gu Mingming sobbed, her heart aching at the sight of Qixuan's injuries. Clenching his fists tightly, Elvis's final compromise was to wait for her outside the door. Gu Mingming nodded. She would not force Qixin to stay away. She would be satisfied as long as Qixuan's emotions could calm down. After Elvis and Leah left, Qixin shifted his little head and rested his chin on Gu Mingming's knee. He closed his eyes and groaned, clearly in extreme pain. Cole gently wiped away Gu Mingming's tears with his fingers, then placed it into his mouth to taste it. He smiled faintly and said, "Salty? Are you a pervert?" Gu Mingming blocked Cole's hand that was reaching towards her again with a look of disgust. Cole lowered his head to look at Qixin before looking up at Gu Mengmeng. He sighed softly. I have already instructed someone to call Dylan over to treat little Xian. Don't worry too much. I won't let anything happen to Xian or... Gu Mengmeng stared coldly at Cole. I really don't know what kind of magic potion you fed Qixin, that he would actually risk his life to protect you. Bewitching potion. If I really had that kind of thing, shouldn't I give it to you first? Cole continued smiling and did not take Gu Mengmeng's sarcastic words to heart. He was like a pampered female who indulged herself. No matter what she said, it seemed like she was flirting with him. How? Qixin, who was in her arms, called out softly, immediately attracting all her attention. The most annoying thing was that she couldn't understand what her son was saying. If not for the fact that she was worried about Qixuan's serious injuries, she would have immediately gone to sleep and find that lonely old man to discuss things with. She could at least call him father and ask him to give her a language cheat code. He had to bring a translator with him when he was talking to his own son. How humiliating was that? Cole noticed the gloomy look on Gu Mengmeng's face, and for some reason, he was in a good mood. Rubbing Qixuan's little head, he said, Little Xian, don't be afraid. It's not that your mother doesn't like me and doesn't want to leave us. Woo-woo. Qixuan's gaze was a little unfocused as he looked up at Gu Mengmeng, looking so pitiful that it made one's heart ache. Agu, don't let little Xian worry, all right? Cole's brows were slightly furrowed as he pleaded sincerely. There was no need for a translation. Gu Mengmeng understood what Qixin had been sobbing about just by listening to Cole's words. But she really did not understand why were the four little ones in Elvis so incompatible, treating outsiders better than the other? Especially this Cole. Gritting her teeth, Gu Mengmeng could not argue with her severely injured son. Even if she wanted to educate him, she had to wait until he recovered. Chapter 862. Qixin seemed to have received a satisfactory answer before he slowly closed his eyes. Gu Mengmeng was instinctively worried about Qixuan's action of closing his eyes. He had already been unconscious for a long time. How long would he sleep for? Cole held Gu Mengmeng's hand gently. Don't worry, he will be fine. Gu Mengmeng glared at Cole coldly. She was filled with disgust and wariness. She struggled a few times but was unable to retract her hand. Instead, her large movements dragged Qixin, who was lying on her knees. That little cub was in so much pain that he shut his eyes tightly and whimpered. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng had given up struggling, Cole's smile deepened. In your eyes, I am probably the worst person in this world, right? Gu Mengmeng was unwilling to respond to Cole. She just gently wiped away the blood at the side of Qixuan's mouth. There were no visible external injuries, but his internal organs must have been injured. Otherwise, why would he be vomiting blood? Cole did not care about Gu Mengmeng's lack of response. He continued. You are the messenger of the beast deity. You are the most righteous and bright person in this world. I am the leader of the stray beast. I am the darkest and evilest person in this world. Since both of us do not wish for anything to happen to little Xian, he will definitely be safe. Isn't that so? Gu Mengmeng glared at Cole coldly. You do not wish for anything to happen to him, yet you let him be your meat shield? Don't treat me like a fool. Do you dare to say that you did not predict that Qixin would rush out, so you purposely did not dodge Elvis's attack? Cole chuckled. If I say that I did not dodge because you wanted to see him beat me up, would you believe me? No. Gu Mengmeng replied. Cole lowered his head. His expression could not be seen clearly. He just said softly, Gu. I thought that after meeting Peter and Natalie, you would at least understand me a little better. Gu Mengmeng frowned. She looked at Cole as if he was an idiot. Cole heaved a deep sigh of relief. He laughed self-deprecatingly. Forget it. I know you do not like to hear about me. I will not bother you. You just have to accompany little Xian. He hasn't seen you for a long time. Although he doesn't say it, I know that he misses you very much. Gu Mengmeng didn't reply and neither did Cole. The two of them just sat there quietly until the door to the stone castle was pushed open. Dylan walked in with steady steps. He looked at Cole but didn't say a word. Then he bowed to Gu Mengmeng and without saying a word, he walked to Qixuan's side and started treating him. Dylan's attitude towards Cole surprised Gu Mengmeng. She had thought that with Cole's vengeful personality, Dylan would be the first to suffer when he returned this time. She had thought that with Cole's vengeful personality, Dylan would be the first to suffer. Chapter 863. Give it to me. Cole stretched out his hand with his palm facing up, placing it in front of Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at Cole warily. Cole chuckled and asked, Are you afraid that if I use the kiss of the ocean to activate the Beast King bloodline, Elvis and Leo will be in danger? Gu Mingming raised her brows and thought to herself, this Cole really knows a lot of things. Even a witch doctor like Leah did not know that the 7 treasures could activate the Beast King's bloodline, but Cole was so clear about it. Cole maintained his smile from start to finish, neither cold nor warm. He maintained an appropriate level of propriety, neither too intimate nor too distant. He maintained it at a level where Gu Mingming had no reason to fly into a rage but could not easily ignore it. He said, no matter what, I have been the leader of Sauter for more than 10 years, it's not surprising that I know these things. Cole took a deep breath and raised his head. I have been at the peak of the 5th level for more than 10 years. With my abilities, I should be able to control the kiss of the ocean. If I really wanted to use it to activate the Beast King bloodline, would you still be willing to give it to me? Gu Mingming remained silent for a moment before chuckling. Why wouldn't I? This is what we agreed on. I'll gather everything for you, and you'll return my son to me. As for how you spend the ransom, that's your business. It has nothing to do with me. Cole closed in on Gu Mingming and looked into her eyes playfully. Aren't you afraid that I will kill your precious partner after I become the Beast King? Gu Mingming looked up and did not avoid Cole's gaze at all. She returned it with a sharp and cold stare. Don't forget I am also a Beast King. Unless I die, no one can harm my mate. Cole straightened his back and widened the distance between him and Gu Mingming. With a teasing smile, he said, so don't worry, I am not using the kiss of the ocean for myself. After all, if my opponent is you, I won't be able to fight at all. Gu Mingming scoffed at Cole's words and did not intend to give any response. Cole continued, you should have realized that the kiss of the ocean can absorb toxins from the body. It's effective on you and it's the same for Xianxian. So, I will use this treasure on Xianxian. Gu Mingming was stunned. How did he know that the kiss of the ocean would be effective on her? Could it be that Cole even knew about her time with Elvis and Saint Nazir? Wasn't this too fantastical? After all, only Elvis and Gu Mingming were present at that time. She did not believe that Elvis would share such a thing with Cole. Cole could see the doubt in Gu Mingming's eyes, but he did not answer her. He just smiled and said, can you give it to me now? If we have that, I believe Xian'er's injuries will heal a little faster. Gu Mingming retracted her gaze from Cole's face. When she turned to look at Xian, she realized that Dylan had already finished the basic treatment. Gu Mingming. Gu Xian her and to Gu King Xian Gu Mingming is up. Gu of. Try to avoid doing too much, especially not letting him get hurt again. Oh, and try to keep him calm and peaceful. This way he will recover faster. Then this subordinate will take his leave. Chapter 864. Gu Mingming didn't say a word and just watched Dylan's departing figure. The people around her were starting to treat her with respect and distance. She had to get used to this kind of relationship. After all, she was the messenger of the beast deity, a high and lonely position. Not everyone could resist the external and internal pressure and still look at her the same way they used to. Cole's disdainful gaze at Dylan was cold and the smile on his lips was tinged with malice. Because he was Agu's man, he stayed. But it seemed like he was wrong. In this world I am the only one who can make Agu unhappy. So you are really an eyesore. Cole made a low sound in his throat as if he was clearing his throat because he was not feeling well. Gu Mingming didn't care. Why would she care about Cole's life? But she didn't know that her momentary disappointment and indifference had caused Dylan, who had once helped her, to never appear again. After using the beast language code to give orders to the stray beasts hiding in the dark, Cole accompanied Gu Mingming and sat beside Xian. He caressed Xuanhuan's body and observed Gu Mingming's reaction from the corner of his eye. After confirming that she didn't notice anything amiss, he reached out his hand and said, give me the kiss of the ocean. You also wish for little Xian to get better soon, don't you? Gu Mingming took out the black pearl from her pocket and handed it to Cole. Cole was a little surprised. He played with the black pearl in his hand and smiled. So this is the kiss of the ocean. With that, Cole plucked a strand of his hair and pinched it lightly. That strand of hair was as straight as a silver needle. Gu Mingming was a little surprised. She was a beast king, right? Why didn't she know such a perverted skill? Snake's memories didn't mention that it could be used like this. Cole gladly accepted the flash of surprise in Gu Mingming's eyes. That was a rare emotion she gave him other than disgust and wariness. He naturally cherished it. The index finger and thumb of one hand were pinching the black pearl, while the index finger and thumb of the other hand were pinching one end of the hair. Slowly and gently, the hair was inserted directly into the pearl and went through it. Cole tied the black pearl around Xian's neck. Then he pried open his mouth and placed the black pearl in his mouth for him to hold. Nudging Qixuan's lower jaw gently to prevent the pearl from falling out, Cole rubbed Qixuan's head reluctantly. He turned to look at Gu Mingming. All right, with this kiss of the ocean, the poison in little Xian's body will no longer act up. So, I can no longer use Xian to threaten you. So, are you going to kill me now? Gu Mingming frowned, feeling that things were not so simple. Would Cole be so kind? How could she not believe it? If you are willing to return Qixuan to me, I can let bygones be bygones. I will be my messenger of the beast deity and you will be your stray beast king. We will mind our own business and live in harmony. Let bygones be bygones? Cole chuckled helplessly. If that's the case, I might not be able to return little Xian to you. I want to be the most special existence in Agu's heart. If I can't especially like and love him, then I will especially hate and loathe him. Aside from the topic, March would be over in 10 days. Susu was working hard to save her manuscript. She needed motivation. For example, tickets. Chapter 865. Gu Mingming stepped in between Cole and Qixuan and raised her head. Sorry, I already know. Now that Qixuan is fine, do you think you still have the ability to snatch him away from me? Cole stood at his original spot without moving. How do you know that he won't want me no matter what after he wakes up? Gu Mingming frowned. Her heart felt stifled. She could not deny that as his biological mother, she did not spend as much time with Qixuan as Cole. She always had various matters to settle and would often leave her sons to Sandy to take care of. As for her as a mother, she really did not seem to be a competent one. As for Cole, he had been by Qixuan's side day and night ever since he had brought him along. He was still a child after all. His thirst for familial love was so strong. It was her negligence that had given Cole a chance. Judging from how he had blocked Elvis's attack for Cole without any regard for his own safety, it was obvious that his need for familial love had reached a certain level. He would definitely look for him after he wakes up. She could easily kill Cole now. But what would happen after that? How would she deal with the psychological damage she had caused to Qixuan? She had neglected him and failed to provide him with companionship. Then she had deprived him of the consolation he had found. Clenching her fists, Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with anger. Cole lowered his head. It's that gaze, the way he only looks at me. It makes my heart beat faster. Gu Mingming took 2 deep breaths and suppressed the irritation in her heart. She said, before I change my mind, get lost from my sight. Cole nodded and placed his right hand on his left chest. Yes, my beloved mistress. With that, his gaze swept across the unconscious Qixuan. Without any hesitation, he turned to leave. The moment he left, Elvis and Leah walked in together. Leah was the first to check on Qixuan's injuries. After all, he was much better at handling such things than Dylan. Elvis held Gu Mingming in his arms and rubbed his chin against the top of her head. Seeing that she was safe and sound, he finally relaxed. I clearly know that he has no ability to hurt you, but I still can't help but worry. Xiaoming, as long as I can't see you, I will feel uneasy as though I will lose you. Can you not disappear from my sight again? Gu Mingming pressed her face against Elvis's chest and listened to his breathing and heartbeat. After a while she said, Cole gave the kiss of the ocean to Qixuan. The poison in Qixuan's body will no longer act up. She looked up at Elvis and asked, Hubby, did I do something wrong? Elvis frowned, his heart aching for the sadness in Gu Mingming's eyes. Gu Mingming's cold, unyielding facade against Cole was completely removed in front of Elvis. She was soft and sensitive, full of guilt towards Qixuan. I seem to have endless things to deal with every day, but I always throw my sons to the back of my mind. If I had been by their side, Cole would not have had the chance to take advantage of me. She took advantage of the fact that Qixuan needed to be concerned about her. I didn't give my sons enough love to support their growth. I should have realized this when Burke appeared, but, hubby, I really wonder if I'm a bad mother? Chapter 866. But, Cole has always been good at manipulating people's hearts. No matter what he says to you, he must have an ulterior motive. If you let him manipulate you, you will fall into his trap. Xiaoming, you must believe in yourself and our sons. They are wolves, not sheep reared in captivity. They need to be trained to grow sharp fangs and claws. Believe in our sons? Gu Mingming's eyes welled up with tears at Elvis's words. I thought you didn't like them. Gu Mingming sobbed. Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's tears away and placed her in his arms. They are flesh that fell from your body. How can I not like them? But, Xiaoming, what drives one forward is never the faint light in the darkness, but the bottomless abyss behind them. They were born in our family and are destined to have an extraordinary life. If they are not strong and mature, not only will they put themselves in danger, they will also implicate their families and even the tribe to struggle with them in this muddy whirlpool. Sometimes being heartless is also a form of love. Do you understand? Gu Mingming nodded in a daze. She wiped away her tears and said, "You understand the rules of survival in the beast world better than me. I believe that your decision is logical. But hubby, my heart still aches for them." Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's brow. "It's all right. I will be in charge of the darkness and cruelty. You will be in charge of caring and gentleness. If you want to care for them, do it. If you want to protect them, do it. If you quarrel with me because of them, it's all right too. Anyway, I will give in to you. I will train them into outstanding wolves without making you feel guilty towards them. No one will be able to use them to threaten you anymore. Is that okay?" Gu Mingming nodded her head heavily before replying, "Yeah." Under Li's care, Qixuan's body recovered very well. That night, Gu Mingming asked Elvis to fetch the 3 little ones from Sandy's house. She decided that it was better for her own sons to be taken care of by herself. 3 days later, Qixuan slowly opened his eyes. Whimpering weakly, Gu Mingming hurried to his side and gently stroked his little head to comfort him. "Qixuan, you're awake? That's great. My sons are so brave. Do you want some water? Or do you want to eat something? Daddy Leah has prepared some meat porridge that is easier to digest. Do you want some?" Qixuan obediently allowed Gu Mingming to stroke him. He blinked a few times to adjust to the light and his eyes started darting around, obviously looking for something. Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat, clearly feeling uneasy. "How do you know that he won't want me after he wakes up?" Cole's words circled around Gu Mingming's ears. Gu Mingming didn't even need anyone to translate for her to easily understand the beast language that Qixuan was hiding in his throat. He was looking for Cole. "Qixuan, Mama will accompany you, okay?" Gu Mingming gently wrapped her arms around Qixuan's neck and gently kissed his little head. "Mummy promises that I will never abandon you guys again. No matter where I go, I will bring the 4 of you with me. So, forgive Mummy for my negligence in the past and give Mummy a chance to change, alright?" Qixuan nodded. Chapter 867. Qixuan had to recuperate for half a month. Elvis and Leah discussed that they would not have enough time to stock up on food if they rushed back to St. Nazaire now, so they could only spend the winter in Sauter. So while Qixuan was recuperating, Leah was responsible for staying at home to take care of Gu Mingming and Qixuan, while Elvis brought the 3 little ones out to hunt. The 4 of them carried back piles of prey every day. On this day the air was extremely cold. Gu Mingming could sense that winter had arrived. Leah went up to the 2nd floor of the stone castle to retrieve a beast skin to seal the windows, while Gu Mingming sat beside Qixuan, gently caressing his little head and speaking gently to him from time to time. Suddenly Qixuan stood up. Before Gu Mingming could rejoice at Qixuan's recovery, he suddenly leapt up and dashed towards the door. "Qixuan!" Gu Mingming exclaimed. Qixuan paused in his steps and turned to look at Gu Mingming deeply. That look seemed to be saying goodbye. Gu Mingming wanted to chase after him, but Qixuan dashed out the door without looking back. At that moment, large snowflakes fell from the sky, blurring their vision and the road ahead. It also blurred Gu Mingming's footsteps. How ironic. The first time she understood her son's intentions was when he turned around. He did not say anything, but Gu Mingming knew very well that Qixuan had gone to look for Cole. Sitting paralyzed on the ground, Gu Mingming covered her face and cried silently. When Leah heard the commotion downstairs and rushed downstairs, he only saw Gu Mingming sitting at the door, crying pitifully. Qixuan was already nowhere to be seen. Without needing to ask, Leah knew what had happened. Hugging Gu Mingming and patting her back, Leah comforted her gently. "Qixuan is Cole's biggest bargaining chip against you. He will not let anything happen to Qixuan." Gu Mingming hugged Li's arm and buried her face in his chest. She knew that Cole would not let anything happen to Qixuan. She was crying because Qixuan's resolute back view was like a sharp sword piercing through her heart. Cole's words, "How do you know that he will not insist on me after he wakes up?" From the start, Gu Mingming had been living in fear of losing Qixuan. And that look from Qixuan, it was as if he was saying, "Mummy, I'm sorry. Goodbye, Mum." Between her and Cole, her Qixuan had chosen Cole. It wasn't because of the poison, he wasn't forced. Cole didn't even appear in front of him during this period of time. But in Qixuan's heart, Cole was already more important than his own mother. Gu Mingming felt as if her throat was being gripped tightly by someone. No matter how hard she tried to breathe, she still felt suffocated. She had lost Qixuan, she had really lost Qixuan. That feeling was as if someone had used a knife to forcefully cut out a piece of flesh from her heart, causing blood to spurt out. When Elvis and the three little ones returned, Gu Mingming had already cried herself to sleep. Leah handed Gu Mingming, whose eyes were swollen like peaches, to Elvis. He sighed and said, "How about I go look for her?" Elvis shook his head and said, "If he has his eyes set on Cole, even if you kidnap him back, he will still run away again. Forget it, let him be. My son Elvis can be responsible for his own life." Since that was the path he wanted to walk, even his parents had no right to stop him. As for Xiaoming. Chapter 868. When Gu Mingming woke up, she realized there were three little ones lying beside her. Why were they lying down? Because they were all in their beast forms. This was very strange, they rarely revealed their beast forms after evolving into half-orcs. Gu Mingming was a little worried. She hugged her sons and asked in a hoarse voice, "What's wrong with you guys? Are you feeling unwell?" The little wolves shook their heads and licked Gu Mingming's face. They howled and acted coquettishly. Winter is here and their ability to resist the cold is not enough. So their beast forms are the most comfortable and warmest for them. Elvis explained for his sons before carrying Gu Mingming up from the pile of little wolves. He kissed her little hand and continued, "Do you want to play in the snow?" Elvis remembered that at this time last year, Gu Mingming pestered him to go for a walk in the snow. She said something like, "During the first snowfall, I want to walk in the snow with the person I like. Because as I walk, my hair will turn white." At that time he was worried that her body was too weak and could not take it, so he rejected her. In the end, he could not stand her coaxing and pestering and finally brought her out. In the end, she fell sick when they returned, but it was also that illness that gave him the chance to mate with her. Now, her body was still petite, but she had Snake's Beast King powers. Resisting the cold was no longer a problem, but she could not be as carefree as a child as she was last year. Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "Forget it, the children are afraid of the cold. I will stay at home with them and not go out." Elvis did not want to force Gu Mingming, but the three little ones jumped up high and clung onto Gu Mingming's legs, looking eager to try. Camwo had already walked to the door and was circling on the spot, howling at Gu Mingming. It was obvious that he was begging her to go out to play. "Want to go out?" Gu Mingming asked softly. "Oh. The three little ones' howls were filled with excitement and anticipation. Gu Mingming did not want to disappoint her son, so she smiled and nodded. Leah took the beast's skin and wrapped Gu Mingming up before standing beside Elvis and leaving the stone castle. Although they were going out to play, they would not go too far. After all, the snow came in a threatening manner and could turn into a storm at any time, engulfing everything in the beast world in silvery white frost. The snow at the entrance had already reached Gu Mingming's calves. The three little ones were now more muscular than a normal adult wolf, so the depth of the snow was not a threat to them. Seeing snow for the first time, the three little ones were obviously a little excited. Their two hind legs dug into the ground, sending snow flying high into the air and splashing all over each other. Gu Mingming looked at her sons playing happily and a faint smile appeared on her face. It would be great if Xianxia was here too. Since she was no longer in the mood to play, Gu Mingming nestled in Elvis's arms and watched her three sons play around. A snowball smashed onto Elvis's face and some snowflakes splashed onto Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming turned around and saw Leah looking at them with a sneaky smile, while the second snowball was already on its way. Elvis frowned and easily dodged the second snowball. He then smiled at Gu Mingming and asked, "Xiaoming, can I beat him up?" Chapter 869. The two adults and three kids played around Gu Mingming, forcefully smashing the melancholy in Gu Mingming's heart into pieces. As the snowflakes splashed on her body, the melancholy slowly dissipated before falling off. Looking at her gradually brightening smile, a pair of eyes hidden under the snow in the distance shone. It was hard to tell if it was peace of mind or loneliness. He just slowly turned around and retreated back the way he came. In a stone house in Solder, Cole sat on the high seat like a king. His lazy and wanton gaze landed on the stone tablet embedded in the wall. Was Agu throwing a tantrum with him? He could almost imagine the sly smile on her face when she was carving these things. Yeah, she was a cute little fox. Using this stone tablet to tell him that she knew where his abilities came from? So, this stone tablet was carved by Agu thinking of him, right? What a great gift. The sound of a body swaying could be heard from the door. Cole's gaze was gentle as he looked for the source of the sound. Even before he saw anyone, he already knew who it was. "Is she all right?" Cole asked softly. Xianxia let out a few muffled sobs. "Envious? Then why don't you show yourself? If you are willing to go back, she will be happy." Cole's lips curled into a playful smile. He waved his hand and Xianxia jumped onto his knees. He lay down with his legs crossed, like an obedient large pet dog. Hearing Xianxuan's reply, Cole's smile deepened. He rubbed his head and said, "Silly son, don't pity me so easily. I am the great demon king of the beast world." "Oh, yeah, I know." Cole looked up and closed his eyes. "One day she will be mine. Then our family will not have to be separated anymore." The snow was getting heavier and the stone castle had already been completely sealed. The structure of the stone castle was more complete than the cave and was closer to the style of modern architecture. There were 2 levels with 7 rooms upstairs and 4 rooms downstairs. The hall was a more spacious area. Elvis had started a fire here to cook and keep warm. The food was piled up in the room on the first floor, and the 3 cubs did not have their own rooms, so they slept directly in the hall, lying next to the fire, which was also warm. That day, Gu Mingming unexpectedly did not let Leah prepare the food. Instead, she personally prepared a sumptuous meal. The 3 little ones circled around Gu Mingming, full of curiosity towards the food in their mother's hands. After working for a long time, although the ingredients were limited, they still managed to fill the table. Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and kissed the side of his face lightly. She said, "Hubby, happy first anniversary of our mating." Elvis felt as if a warm current had flowed into his heart, making it extremely soft. His eyes seemed to contain the depth of the entire ocean. He said gently, "So you've been busy today to celebrate your first year as a partner?" Gu Mingming nodded. "This is an important day for us, isn't it?" "Yes." Elvis kissed her temple. Actually, to him, from the moment he saw Gu Mingming in the lake, every day was an important day. But because of Gu Mingming's concern, the day of mating became an important day for Elvis. It was the most important day. Chapter 870. Lee's appearance was a stark contrast to Elvis's. A year ago at this time, he stood guard in the snow outside the cave alone, guarding the door for them. He listened to the ambiguous conversation through the snow and was tortured by it. Then he finally found a reason to come in and see her, but she used every single word to stab his heart. What maintaining the demeanor of an ex-boyfriend, what parting and being happy with each other, what being strangers from now on, there's only you and me in the world, not us. The 3 little ones did not know the complicated thoughts between the adults, they only knew that the food their mother made was especially delicious. Even if everyone in the world said that Daddy Lee's cooking was the best, but the taste of their mother was the one that satisfied the 3 little ones the most. After the meal, Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's face and said, "You've worked hard for a day, let Leah bring you upstairs to rest, I'll wash the dishes today." Before Gu Mingming could react, Leah had already carried Gu Mingming out from Elvis's arms horizontally. But Gu Mingming's gaze was filled with conflict. Today was the 1-year anniversary of mating, shouldn't she and Elvis be the ones accompanying each other? Leah kissed Gu Mingming's lips with a deep gaze. After closing the door, he said, "Mingming, do you intend to let this day become my nightmare every year from now on?" Gu Mingming stared at Leah in a daze, unable to react. Leah placed Gu Mingming's little hand by his lips and kissed it, saying, "1 year ago at this time was the darkest and most tragic period of my life. At that time, I didn't want to live anymore because of you. But you cruelly want me to watch you and Elvis intimately every year on this day, reminding me repeatedly of how pathetic I looked when I was struggling outside of your happiness that day?" Gu Mingming looked down, her heart aching. She had neglected Lee's feelings, forgetting that on the day she and Elvis became partners, he was as miserable as they were blissful. Lowering her head, Gu Mingming said, "I'm sorry." Leah placed one hand on the side of her waist and pressed her down. His lips stopped beside her ear and he whispered, "You know very well that I prefer to hear you confess your love more than an apology." Gu Mingming nodded. The Gu Mingming now was no longer the naive Gu Mingming who had just transmigrated. She naturally knew what would happen after Lee's flirting. Blushing, Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Lee's neck and whispered, "Leah, I love you." Leah bit Gu Mingming's little earlobe and breathed in a husky and charming voice, "These are the most touching words of love I've ever heard. Mingming, let today become our mating day. This way Elvis and I can celebrate with you every year. I will no longer be a lonely existence outside of your happiness. Let me be a part of your happiness, all right?" But we made it at the end of the rainy season, not now. Gu Mingming remembered that the date of their mating was not far from the anniversary of Snake's death. Leah shook his head and said, "Silly girl, you need to inherit something from me before you can truly be considered as my partner." At most, it was considered an engagement. Gu Mingming arched her waist slightly and her body subconsciously catered to Lee's teasing. A single sound escaped from her throat. "Mingming, let me belong to you completely, all right? Mm. A lingering kiss was followed by a floor of melancholy. Aside from the topic, hurry, there's no time, hurry up and board the train. Look at the car plate. 492779273. After boarding the train, look for the administrator to check the tickets. Babes with more than 800 fans can enter the VIP cabin and enjoy the special treatment of overflowing meat. Note: this train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. This train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. Chapter 871. Every winter the flow of time would become a mystery. Gu Mingming did not know how long she had slept for and when it was day and night. But when she finally could not endure the empty fort strategy and woke up amidst the waves of protests, she was lying in between Elvis and Leah. She looked up and saw two pairs of eyes staring straight at her. Thinking of the craziness that day, Gu Mingming really wanted to find a piece of tofu and knock herself to death. She did not have the face to see Leah or Elvis. Gu Mingming sat up and pretended not to see them, walking straight to the door. "Did you not serve her well?" Elvis's voice sounded behind Gu Mingming, obviously questioning Leah. This sentence made Gu Mingming's hair stand on end. She was like a cat whose acupoints were hit, arching her back as if she had stepped on an electric switch. Leah was confused. "It can't be." Her reaction that day was quite satisfactory. "She fainted after that and I stopped because I could not bear to torture her anymore." "Could it be, Do you usually continue after she fainted?" Gu Mingming really did not want to listen to Elvis and Leah discuss their experiences of doing OXX with her. So she turned her head and glared at them, blushing. "I'm hungry, I want to eat." Seeing her expression, the two of them then understood that Gu Mingming was shy and not dissatisfied with Lee's expression. Chuckling, Elvis reached out and opened his arms, saying, "Xiaoming, come here." "What?" Gu Mingming blushed and did not move an inch. "Leah needs time to cook. Lie with me for a while more." Leah had already stood up and walked to Gu Mingming's side. He carried her horizontally and placed her back into Elvis's arms. He covered her with a beast skin and kissed her forehead, saying, "There will be food soon, don't be anxious." Lee's words could not be more serious, but it made Gu Mingming's face turn even redder. Damn fox. It was all his fault for saying eat, and eat non-stop that day. Every time she heard the word eat, those indescribable images would replay in her mind and she would soon be traumatized. Although Leah had the intention to continue teasing her, she had slept for a long time after all. Coupled with the intense exercise before sleeping, she was definitely hungry. He was not willing to let his darling Meng Meng starve to death. Thus, he gave up on enjoying the cute look of her getting angry and directly went downstairs to cook. "Do you feel any difference in your body?" Elvis asked as he adjusted the beast skin covering Gu Mingming's body. Gu Mingming's brain had turned into paste and she could not react at all. She did not know what Elvis was asking. Elvis stroked Gu Mingming's left ear gently and smiled. "Lee's mark is clearer and more realistic now. This mating between the two of you is really full of twists and turns. However, since you've already mated with him, you should be able to inherit something from him." Gu Mingming buried her face into Elvis's chest. Mating anniversary and burning with another male, ha! She did not even dare to imagine how Elvis came that day. Elvis understood Gu Mingming's thoughts. He hooked her little chin lightly and made her look straight into his eyes, as if he wanted to pour the depth of the entire ocean into her. He said slowly with a low and mellow voice, "As long as I don't lose you, I can endure anything. I'm your partner and so is he. If he suffers on that day every year, you will be sad. And I won't do anything that will make you sad, isn't that right?" Digression. Why was Elvis's first reaction that Leah did not serve her well and not Gu Mingming's shyness? Chapter 872. Gu Mingming did not continue discussing this topic. From the day she accepted Leah, she knew that she was destined to be in a state of debt when it came to matters of the heart. Elvis and Leah treated her well, so she could only be grateful and try her best to love them even more. Leaning into Elvis's arms, she rubbed against his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Gu Mingming felt at ease as if she had found someone to rely on. Elvis stroked her hair lovingly, letting her nestle in his arms like a docile and lazy cat. He did not wish for his compromises to become a burden in Gu Mingming's heart. In the beast world, any half-orc female would have more than 10 males in her family. A complete female's family would have 30 to 50 members, and the first beauties of each tribe would have more than 100 partners. But Gu Mingming only had him and Leah. Even so, she always felt that she owed them and this made his heart ache. What he gave was not enough, but she already felt that she was too greedy and always took care of their emotions carefully. How good would it be if she could be more willful? That way she would be much happier. As the food in the house had all been processed, coupled with Li's superb culinary skills, the meal was prepared very quickly. When Gu Mingming smelled the aroma of the meat and woke up, Leah was already standing downstairs, using stone bowls to serve rice and meat to everyone. Gu Mingming ate while looking at her 3 sons, her heart filled with warmth. If only Xian was here too. Just as she was thinking, a strange sound came from the corner. Elvis and Leah turned around sharply. Gu Mingming immediately shielded her 3 sons behind her, then stared at the sound with her guard up. 2 stone slabs were pushed open and a person walked out from the corner. Without seeing his face clearly, Gu Mingming could already tell who it was from his scent. Cole? Cole did not have time to care about Elvis and Li's guard up. He walked straight to Gu Mingming and said with a serious expression, "Ah Gu, follow me." Something happened to little Xian. Gu Mingming felt as if all the blood in her body froze in an instant and her mind exploded. Without thinking about anything else, she walked towards Cole. Elvis held her waist and hugged her. "Xiaoming, calm down." Gu Mingming turned back to look at Elvis in a daze. Her entire body was trembling and she could not utter a complete sentence. Calm down? How could he calm down? Xian was her son. He was the one who had lost the most money and wanted to make it up to her. It was a piece of flesh that had fallen off her body. "Ah Gu, you know that I won't use little Xian to lie." Cole grabbed Gu Mingming's wrist and said, "Time is tight, I don't have time to explain." She then raised her head to look at Elvis and Leah. "Follow me if you're worried. Don't waste my time." Elvis pushed Cole's hand away and carried Gu Mingming in his arms. He turned back to look at Leah and said, "Stay at home and take care of the children. I will accompany Xiaoming." Leah nodded. Although he was worried about Gu Mingming and Cole being alone together, if this was Cole's ploy to lure them away, Mingming would go crazy if anything happened to the 3 little ones. Chapter 873. Gu Mingming did not have a good sense of direction to begin with. After turning left and right for a few rounds underground, Gu Mingming was even more confused about north, south, east and west. Only when a ray of light appeared in front of her did she know that she had arrived. Coming out from a secret door that was similar to the entrance, Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment before realizing that she was in Sauter's meeting room. She had memorized the 36 stratagems on the wall and a white tiger skin was laid on a stone chair. Xuanhuan's small body was curled up on the animal skin, looking like he was in extreme pain. He gritted his teeth and trembled incessantly, whimpering sounds coming from his throat. Even though she did not understand animal language, she could tell from her maternal instincts that the child was crying out in pain. Gu Mingming's tears streamed down her face. She could not care less about anything else as she rushed over and hugged Xian in her arms to comfort him. "Don't be afraid, little Xian. Mummy is here." Elvis stepped forward and pulled at Xuanhuan's eyelids and ears. "It's alright, don't worry. It's just evolution." "Evolve?" Gu Mingming looked at Elvis with reddened eyes, as if she was a drowning person grabbing onto a life-saving straw. Elvis nodded. "It's just a normal evolution. He's almost 1 year old, it's time for him to evolve." But Hudar and the rest weren't like this when they evolved. Gu Mingming sobbed. This was the reality. No matter how strong a woman was, she would still be weak when it came to the problem of her children. That was the softness and sensitivity that they couldn't touch. Elvis remained silent. He could not tell Gu Mingming that it was not that Huda and his brothers were not in pain when they were evolving, but because they were too worried about her, they forcefully released all the pain in an instant. The process was too fast for her to notice. And when it came to evolution from beast form to human form, almost every inch of bone had to be broken, reassembled, broken again, and reassembled again. If that kind of pain erupted in a short period of time, ordinary beastmen wouldn't be able to bear it at all. At best, they would fail to evolve. At worst, they would be crippled or even killed on the spot. So even though he had never mentioned it, Elvis was actually quite proud of the fact that all 3 of them had successfully evolved into half-orcs. But he could not tell Gu Mingming about this. It was enough for her to worry about Xian. If the problem of the 3 little ones' evolution was mentioned, she would definitely blame herself even more. Instead of blaming herself, it was better to blame him. Elvis's expression was indifferent as he said, "Because the old injuries on his body have not fully healed, so it will be harder for him to evolve. Just get through it. It'll be fine." Gu Mingming glared coldly at Cole. If not for his scheme, Xian would not have been injured by Elvis. This debt would naturally be placed on his head. Cole did not think that Elvis was trying to push the blame onto him. After all, he was best at manipulating people's hearts. From what he saw, Elvis's words were just trying to shift the blame onto someone else. But it didn't matter. Just like what he said, if he couldn't become someone that Gu Mingming especially liked and especially loved, then she would hate and hate him even more. In any case, it wasn't just one or two things that she hated about him. One more or one less thing made no difference. Hence, Cole did not refute and only said, evolution is the critical period for Qixian. He does not have enough battle experience and has too little experience. I'm afraid that he doesn't have enough power to support his evolution. Even though he has the support of the kiss of the ocean, his body is still too weak due to the poison. So, Agu, you have to help him. Out of topic. Today's update has ended. Regarding the issue of breaking updates in March, Su wants to apologize to everyone here. The editor requested that I have 250,000 chapters in stock. Yes, she changed her words. She clearly said 200,000 previously, but I only have 140,000 chapters in stock now, so I won't have a chance to be recommended in March. The editor's strict order is that I have to save 250,000 chapters in April, so I may not appear in the fan groups and message boards very often. But baby, even if I don't appear, you all must believe that I love all of you. Chapter 874. How can I help? Gu Mingming looked at Cole with reddened eyes. A drop of blood. Cole replied. You have the blood of the Beast King in you. Just a drop of blood is enough to help little Xian overcome this crisis. But Gu Mingming would not hesitate even if she had to bleed herself dry in exchange for Qixuan's safety, much less a drop of blood. The key was that her body was poisonous, especially her blood. Although she had been wearing the kiss of the ocean for many days and could now mate with her partner, that was only possible when Elvis and Leah were powerful enough. In other words, it was not that Gu Mingming was not poisonous, but that her poison had been diluted by the kiss of the ocean. In addition, Elvis and Leah had antibodies in their bodies so they could rely on their strength to not be poisoned to death by her. That was all. But blood was different. Just a drop of blood was enough for Gu Mingming to turn a 100-meter radius into barren land. Giving such a drop of blood to Qixian? Was she helping him? Was she sure she did not want to kill him? Cole understood Gu Mingming's worries. He pointed at the kiss of the ocean on Qixuan's neck. If it's just a drop of blood, the kiss of the ocean can purify it. Gu Mingming did not trust Cole from the bottom of her heart. She turned to look at Elvis without saying a word. Elvis nodded as a reply. Gu Mingming finally made up her mind after seeing Elvis's reaction. She bit her finger and dripped a drop of blood between Qixuan's chattering teeth. Within a breath, Qixian suddenly calmed down. But before Gu Mingming could heave a sigh of relief, Qixian suddenly descended into a crazed state. His entire body kept convulsing. Gu Mingming was so worried that she did not know what to do. She could only call out his name over and over again. Tears streamed down her cheeks, causing Elvis's heart to ache. After a long while, Qixuan's state gradually calmed down. Then he slowly but clearly evolved before Gu Mingming's eyes. His tiny claws turned into long, fair fingers. His furry body gradually turned into a slender human form. His facial features were no longer that of a wolf's. With his head lowered, Gu Mingming could not see his face clearly. Elvis threw down a piece of beast skin to cover Qixuan's body. He did not like Gu Mingming to see other males naked, even if it was his son. This is considered to be over? Gu Mingming looked up at Elvis. Elvis scooped Gu Mingming into his arms and nodded, replying, yeah. The Beast King's bloodline is indeed different. It actually allowed little Xian to skip the half-beast stage and evolve into a rank 1 beastman. Agu, thank you. Cole knelt beside Qixian and said as he caressed his little head. Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with resentment. Give me your dirty hands, don't touch my son. Cole was taken aback, but he still retracted his hand. He stood up and bowed to Gu Mingming. Chapter 875. Since you know I won't feel comfortable staying in the same space with you, you should scram, shouldn't you? Gu Mingming didn't hold back against Cole at all. Cole looked deeply at Qixian, who was sprawled on the ground. But if little Xian doesn't see me when he wakes up, he will run around the world again. The snow outside is so heavy. As a first-level orc, I'm afraid he won't be able to handle it. It's very dangerous. Gu Mingming clenched her fists. Qixuan's glance at her before he rushed into the snow was like a sharp knife stabbing into Gu Mingming's heart. She couldn't deny Cole's words. If Cole wasn't around, Qixian would definitely look for him when he wakes up. Taking a deep breath, Gu Mingming ignored Cole. She just nestled in Elvis's arms and looked quietly at Xian, who was sprawled on the ground without moving. Her eyes were filled with worry. After some time, Xian seemed to have woken up. He stretched his neck and propped himself up on his elbows. Xian. Gu Mingming's heart was finally at ease. Xian was first taken aback when he heard Gu Mingming's voice. He then turned around and looked at Gu Mingming in surprise. He didn't expect her to be here at all. After a long pause, he opened his mouth and called out, "Mother." Gu Mingming immediately jumped out of Elvis's arms and pounced over to hug Xian. She rubbed his forehead intimately. "Good baby, it's good that you are fine. You scared Mother to death." Xian hesitated for a moment, but still reached out to gently stroke Gu Mingming's back. Just like how she used to coax the four brothers to sleep when they were young. Although his voice was mild, there was a hint of coaxing in it. "I'm sorry for making you worry." Gu Mingming shook her head and wiped her tears. "It's all right. As long as you are fine, Mother will be fine." Xian didn't say anything else. He just tied a knot in the beast skin and wore it as a simple beast skin dress. He then took 2 steps back to distance himself from Gu Mingming. "Mother, I am fine now. You guys, hurry back." Gu Mingming was stunned. She looked up at Xian and asked in anticipation, Aren't you coming back with me?" Xian could not bear to see Gu Mingming's tear-filled eyes. He tilted his head and said, "I am already of age and must be independent." "But you are my son," Gu Mingming said. Xian did not compromise. His voice was calm and gentle as he said, "I will live independently and will still be your son." Gu Mingming stood up and took 2 steps forward. But the closer she got, the further Xian retreated. It was obvious he was rejecting her. "Xian, are you blaming your mother for not protecting you?" Gu Mingming felt wronged, but there was nothing she could do. She didn't know if all parents in the world were at a loss in front of their children. She only knew, she didn't want to lose this son. Xian pursed his lips and shook his head. "Mother, I am a wolf." His fingers were like metal pincers around Xuanhuan's neck. Raising him up, Xuanhuan's feet left the ground slightly. His face was flushed red from the lack of oxygen, but his body did not show any signs of resisting. He allowed death to approach him, but his eyes only stared unwaveringly at Cole, without a single ripple of emotion. "Little Xian, don't forget yourself and challenge my bottom line just because I treat you well. Be obedient and don't make me angry, understand?" Chapter 877. After returning to the stone castle, Gu Mingming's mood was very low. Elvis told Leah everything about Cole and Xian. Actually, children needed to be independent after they grew up. If Gu Mingming had not stopped them, the 3 young ones would have long gone out to fend for themselves. From the day they evolved, they no longer had any relationship with their original family. But because of Gu Mingming's persistence towards her family, Leah and Elvis made an exception and used the excuse that the 3 young ones had yet to fully evolve to keep them by their side. Seeing Gu Mingming's dejected look, Lee's heart ached. Sighing, Leah wagged his tail and sat beside Gu Mingming. He gently held her shoulders and placed her head on his chest. "Children have grown up and have their own lives. You can't keep them by your side forever, can you?" Leah kissed the top of Gu Mingming's head and said gently, "Moreover, don't you still have me and Elvis? The 2 of us will never leave you." Children had grown up and had to leave eventually. Gu Mingming understood this logic, but it did not mean that she did not feel sad. But fortunately, Xian would come over from the secret tunnel every few days to eat and chat with Gu Mingming. Gradually, Gu Mingming's mood improved. However, the fact that Xian, who had evolved the latest, was the first to become a first-level orc successfully stimulated the other 3 young ones, especially Xianhu. Then, in order to improve their own abilities, the 3 young ones started training in the wheel training mode at home. At first, the 3 of them fought each other, but later on they found Leah to train with. When Leah wanted to cook for Gu Mingming, the 3 young ones started to target Elvis. Elvis was very unhappy that the 3 young ones he trained lost to Xian, who was trained by Cole. So when he trained with the 3 young ones, he was very ruthless. But the 3 young ones became more courageous as they fought. They were not at all scared off by Elvis's ruthlessness, but instead entered a state of excitement. Time slowly passed as the father and son warmly sparred with each other. Until a crack appeared on the snow sealing the cave entrance and a gentle breeze blew in. Gu Mingming knew that a new year had begun. According to tradition, as the tribe leader and witch doctor, Elvis and Leah should host the first hunt after the new year. Gu Mingming was rather looking forward to the first hunt of this rainy season. After tidying himself and the three young ones, Elvis carried Gu Mingming in his arms. With a wave of his hand, the thin layer of snow blocking the entrance was smashed to the ground. Gu Mingming took in a deep breath of fresh air, then sighed in satisfaction. The weather was still a little chilly and Elvis was afraid that Gu Mingming would catch a cold, so he used a large piece of beast skin to wrap her tightly. She did not resist and allowed Elvis to wrap her up. Sauter held the ceremony at the deity altar, and it was here that Cole exchanged the secret signal with her, using the phrase, hoeing the fields in the middle of the day, to confirm her identity as the messenger of the beast deity. But when Gu Mingming and the rest arrived at the temple, they realized that a large number of Snow Fox tribesmen had already gathered there. It looked like the ceremony had been going on for half a day. And the one hosting the ceremony, was it Oakley? Gu Mingming frowned. She did not go up the stage and just watched quietly. Chapter 878. Gu Mingming was not a person who placed great importance on power, but she was not a fool either. Oakley's actions today were obviously overstepping his authority. Gu Mingming frowned and did not go up the stage. Meanwhile, everyone on and off the stage were already kneeling down, waiting for Gu Mingming's command. Leah whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, "The hunt is an important matter, it cannot be delayed. As for the rest, we can talk about it later." Gu Mingming hesitated for a moment before nodding her head. Elvis lifted her up onto the stage. Then Gu Mingming turned around to face the crowd and said, "Warriors, congratulations on passing the test of the harsh winter and becoming an even more outstanding existence. Now, it's time for you to display your talents and abilities to the beast deity. The first hunt after winter shall begin now." Hundreds responded to her call. Just as Gu Mingming finished her sentence, deafening roars resounded from below the stage, one after another. Elvis shook the shiny black fur on his body. His huge and burly body was like a king under the scorching sun, emitting an undeniable sense of oppression, causing everyone to subconsciously sharpen. Under his majesty, no one dared to take even half a step forward in front of him. With Elvis in the lead, a group of tribesmen dashed out. Leah never had to participate in this kind of hunt. Elvis alone was enough to control the entire scene. Gu Mingming's gaze landed on Oakley, who also did not participate in the hunt. She did not say a word and just watched quietly. Oakley did not panic, he just bowed to Gu Mingming, then said, "Does the great messenger have something to ask? Why don't we move to the meeting hall?" Gu Mingming did not reply, she just turned around and walked out. Winter had just ended, the snow had not even melted and the ground was very muddy. Leah carried Gu Mingming in his arms, saying dotingly, "The ground is cold, it's still more comfortable in my arms, right?" Gu Mingming smiled coquettishly and nodded, not saying a word. She knew that Leah was afraid that she would be in a bad mood because of Oakley, so he was purposely teasing her. The meeting hall was not far behind the deity altar. After about 5 minutes, Gu Mingming was already sitting on the stone chair covered with white tiger skin. Leah started a fire, boiling water at the side for Gu Mingming to drink. Oakley, on the other hand, was standing right below Gu Mingming, looking back at her with his head held high, not avoiding her gaze at all. This winter, Sauter has a total of 3 litters of cubs. Another snow fox female is pregnant and should be a female. Due to the method of food storage taught by the Great Messenger, no males died during the winter because they were treated as food. Only 7 died because their bodies were too weak to withstand the low temperature. The females of the Snow Fox clan were more delicate than the other clans.